instant, and I really never believed what that truly meant until I was at the hospital one day and I saw my dad wired to machines, hanging on to the edge of his life. And it's a common thought that a heart attack is really only something that can happen to older people, 70s and 80s. But heart disease in medicine is always known as the silent killer, and if you don't really take care of your health all that often, it can really happen to anybody. So it was August 18th, it was just an unsuspecting Monday, and my mom had called me while I was at work and told me that my father had suffered a heart attack while he was driving on his way home from Nashville. And by the end of the story, I hope everyone will walk away learning how important your heart health is and how important it is to make sure that you're maintaining everything. So a little bit of background, it was about 4 p.m. I'm a caregiver at a nursing home and I work 12-hour shifts, so I work 6 to 6, and it was about 4 p.m. as I was setting up for dinner that my mom gave me a call and had told me that my dad was being transported down to Nashville at Ascension Midtown. She had told me this story of him. He said that he had felt a sharp pain in his left shoulder while he was driving, and it made him go to the urgent care himself to get checked out, and he eventually ended up leaving in an ambulance. So I panicked immediately after hearing this, naturally, hearing that my father had a heart attack, and my mom assured me that everything was going to be okay, but at the time, I really wasn't too sure because we just didn't know and have that much information, and I have a feeling she really didn't know either. And I had already started to text my brothers and to get everybody together and tell them to be ready by 6 when I'm off work so that we could go down to the hospital. So when I got off at 6, I rushed home and I quickly changed me and all my brothers back into my car, and we all headed on down to Nashville to see my father. At that time, what we thought could have been the last time. And so we arrived at the hospital, and then we make our way up to the heart catheter lab where my dad is in critical condition but is being monitored. And I find him connected to all of these heart monitors and his eyes are closed. And so I walk in there and I think that he's like dead. I think that he's in terrible condition. And turns out he was just sleeping, and he woke up and eventually told me everything about what had happened. He explained he was rushed from the urgent care all the way to the ER, and by the time that he left the ambulance into the operating room, in the emergency room, it was maybe 5 minutes. It was quick. He didn't even have enough time to tell my mom that he loved her or tell my mom goodbye. That's how fast that he was in and out of that ambulance into the operating room. And they had explained that he had put stents in his coronary artery because they had clogged it, and it was clogged by his decades of smoking. He had been smoking since he was 15, so all these years of smoking cigarettes, they added up. And so it was about 15 minutes after me and my dad were talking that another nurse had came in and explained how my dad was going to be fine, but if he had not come in when he probably wouldn't have made it because he caught it right in time. So she then told us that he'd be moved from the heart catheter lab upstairs into a lesser intensive unit, and that he was going to be able to make a full recovery. And so my dad was released from the hospital about 3 days later of constant monitoring, but ever since then he hasn't touched a cigarette. And so the moral of the story that I want to everybody take away from this is you really need to look after your health, and especially your heart health. And you never really know when somebody that you love can potentially have their life threatened, so just make sure that you love on the people that you have right now, and if they're not making great choices about their health, encourage them to do so. Thank you guys.